Bizarre experience early this year. I was at a comedy club, and the comedian had some sort of joke about how women are secretly only attracted to men, only get excited by men that they're scared of. And, obviously no woman wants to be with a man who's a complete psycho, but it was just more like, they want a guy who's obviously high value, attractive, whatever. But if they're scared of them, that it really gets them turned on and excited. And I don't think I've ever seen so many women agreeing, laughing, like, yeah, oh my gosh, it's so true. Like the whole, like every woman in the room was just excited and going nuts over this joke. And so, anyway, that just got me just kind of watching some videos on female psychology and whatnot. And I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of this, but all men joke that you can never figure out women. They're an enigma. They're fickle. You're never going to figure them out. But as far as like rules of attraction, it is a lot of opposite land. It is a lot of craziness. But anyway, just a clip from a Joe Rogan interview here with a guy talking about women being attracted to bad boys. Real quick video today.
Sort of like it's one of the questions I get asked a lot is why are women attracted to bad boys? Guys who seem like they're assholes who don't respect them, etc. But there are reasons, and one is they exhibit a lot of confidence, and confidence people often interpret as a cue to status. Why would you be confident if you didn't have something to back up your confidence?
Well, in confidence, if you haven't figured this out, I've had a lot of friends who their dating life didn't even really start until they were almost to a point. If they would run into a woman at a bar and the woman would be like, "Will you buy me a drink?" Just almost doing the opposite, like, "No, you buy me a drink," or maybe I'll buy you a drink if the conversation lasts 5 minutes, or just some sort of like pushback. You got to have confidence. You got to show that you're somewhat alpha. And confidence is key for anything in life, not just relationships, obviously.
Um, those high on narcissism also like to be the center of attention. And as humans, we use the attention structure as a cue to status. That is, the high status people are the ones to whom the most people pay the most attention. And so if someone's paying you a lot of attention, and narcissists put themselves, at the center of the party, at the center of attention, and so women interpret, oh, that's a status cue. So the confidence and status are known. We know that these are attractive to women, but over time, with experience, women become less and less attracted to these bad boy characteristics. That is, it's primarily young, relatively inexperienced women who are drawn to these guys.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So over time, women would recognize, like, oh, I've seen this before.
Yeah, and if you're a nice guy and haven't dated someone who's had that experience, you're probably looking at trouble ahead. I mean, you're obviously looking at trouble ahead at least 50% of the time anyway. So,
Yeah, yeah, and then the Machiavellianism to just close the loop on the dark triad. These are exploiters. These are the manipulators. This actually came from originally from the book The Prince, which is one of these classic books where there's an advisor to the prince who's advising him on all these, kind of underground strategies to manipulate other people and manipulate and maintaining power and so forth. And these highly manipulative people, well, sometimes they rise to the top. Sometimes they maneuver themselves by outcompeting others, and they become CEOs or whatever. And so it kind of depends on the environment. High Machiavellians tend to thrive more in a kind of free for all environment where there aren't very strict rules of engagement. So probably more difficult to do it, say, in the military where they're very regimented, they're very rule oriented.
Mm.
The high Mac people, as they're called, they wouldn't thrive in those environments typically. But more free floating environment, maybe
Day trading.
day trading, yeah, or even business entrepreneurs
Mm.
who are
Yeah,
wheeling and dealing.
that makes sense.
You
Yeah,
know,
and you do meet a lot of psychos that are doing that.
you know,
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that have great aspirations about starting big businesses and getting the, you meet them and you're like, oh, you're kind of fucking crazy. Like there's
yeah,
a lot of those guys that are like hopped up on Adderall and very aggressive, and
yeah,
it
yeah,
makes sense that
and
they're
some,
attracted to that.
yeah, and sometimes talk a good game.
Yes, and women would be attracted to them because of the potential access to resources.
Yes, yeah, women are very tuned in. This is one of the sex differences, and people don't like it, but it's a universal that women value financial resources and, even more important, the qualities that lead to financial resources over time. So, does the guy have drive? Does he have ambition? Does he have goals? Is he going places? Is he well respected by his peers?
So that
Yeah, guys, and so like the other thing that's crazy in this modern age and dating, dating apps. I've seen mixed statistics, but I've seen that for sure. Obviously, I think Tinder is worse than others depending on how the algorithm works. But you have like 80-90% of the women dating 20, 15, 10, 5% of the men, and I think like on Tinder with it being the most extreme, it's like 80-90% of the women are dating 4% of the men, and obviously that math doesn't make sense. The only way that math makes sense is if multiple women are dating the same guy, um, and or women are dating many men. And so basically, and now you have this whole, I don't know if you call it a movement or not, but you have women openly saying, I would rather date a man with resources, even though he's dating many women, than date a man who's not going anywhere, doesn't have resources, doesn't have a good job, that kind of thing. So anyway, what do you guys think? This is an interesting video because I've never heard the high Mac term before. Kind of interesting, but what are your thoughts? Do you think we're going to finally um, get some more equalization in the sexes, or is this plutocracy and the women fighting for the top men going to continue?